Welcome to Stock Time to Improv. I'm Mary Scott with Business Riff, and I want startups to be wildly successful. Stress is a big part of a startup business, and today I'm happy to have Dr. Katie Nall from the NallEdge Company talking about coping with stress. Welcome, Dr. Katie. How have you been?
Oh, thank you, Mary. I appreciate your show and what you're doing. I wish I had a show like this when I started my business. So thank you for what you're offering.
Sure. So one of the things startups think is that they have to do it all. Okay. How do you deal with that kind of stress?
Yeah, I so remember that. And I think one of the most important things is to decide what do you do best, and what you do best, focus on that. There are so many ways you can have other people do the parts that you don't do. A lot of people don't like doing the accounting. Some people don't like doing the marketing. Some people love the marketing, but don't want to do. So find out what you do the best and focus on that. Now, as a startup, I remember I never had enough money. So what do? I found that I could barter with different people. And I also found that if I networked in other arrangements, that I could find people that we could work together on a project and have them take care of the part I didn't care for, and I'd take care of the part they didn't care for.
Bartering, that's a great idea. Are there other kinds of things to think about for stress reduction?
Yes. It turns out that when we're stressed, we increase our adrenaline and our cortisol in our body. How do you reduce it? As it turns out, when we're stressed, we end up with fight, flight, freeze, or fawn syndromes, and those happen instantaneously. And to get rid of them, we have to do something to counterbalance it. There are lots of things you can do. You may have heard about breathing or meditation or yoga. All of those are really good. And the one thing that I have found that's the absolute best, because it doesn't just handle the stress, it eliminates the stress. And that's something called emotional freedom technique, or EFT, also called tapping. Very simple technique. Basically, you just tap on 8 different parts of your body. And I'm going to tell you one part, Mary, that many startups won't believe. When you're a startup, you've heard you've got to be positive. You got to have the goals. You got to get going. That is great. And regardless of how positive we are, there are times in our day when something hits us and we end up feeling negative. And if we just push it down and push it down and push it down, it's going to erupt out of our body. So how do you eliminate that stress, that negativity? You can do it with tapping. It's a very easy method. The part that throws a lot of people is that we actually speak out what the negative feelings are. So you would tap and say, I'm feeling frustrated, or I'm feeling overwhelmed, or I'm feeling the imposter syndrome. And whatever it is you're feeling, you tap on those 8 spots to eliminate it. Now, why would you do that as a startup? When you are under stress, you cannot make your best decisions. You have to make really good, critical decisions in a startup, and tapping will help you clear the way so that you can make really good decisions.
Great. Tapping. That's something new. I'm sure a lot of people haven't heard of before. Personally, I like to put a timer on my desktop so that I get up and take a breath and walk around and stretch at least every 45 minutes.
That's a great way. The Pomodoro method is fabulous for setting your timer, doing a little bit of work, walking around, getting things done. What I've found is that so many people have a chronic or overwhelming sensation. For instance, take the imposter syndrome. I know I've been through that, and most of the small business people that I've worked through have felt that as well. Like, who am I to think that I could become this amazing thought leader, that I could share this information, that I could have a huge organization? And that imposter syndrome kind of creeps up on you, and you can walk around all day and you would still have that imposter syndrome. And that's where tapping can really, really help.
That's really interesting stuff. What's a good way to deal with those other people that you have to work with as a startup, especially when you know they're right, but you don't want to admit it?
Oh my gosh, we all have those people in our lives, don't we? So dealing with the people who may have a different personality than ours, and listening. And I'll tell you the best thing, Mary, and that's the 1, 2, 3, stop. When somebody that has maybe an abrasive personality or somebody that's different than us, and it may not be abrasive, they just may be more calm than us, and that may be upsetting us because we want to get things done and we want to move along, and they're not moving fast enough. Doing the 1, 2, 3, stop and allows us to listen and take control of our own emotions and try to see things from the other person's perspective. Understanding that we each have different personalities. Thank you so much. If we were all the hard driving, you've got to get things done kind of personality, well, we probably wouldn't have time for fun, like the ones that are exuberant and want to have a party at the drop of a hat. And we may not be like the ones who are supportive and want to make things happen, but maybe they don't snap as fast as we do, or we need those critical people, the ones that are crossing the T's and dotting the I's and making sure that everything we're doing is right on target. Taking that 1, 2, 3, stop, listen, evaluate, how am I feeling right now? What are they going through? And how can I help them be successful? Key question, how can I help them be successful when working with me? So it might be explaining to them that, I know that this took you a long time. It's really important to me that the details be clear. Are you sure the details are clear? Or this is really important to me. I need to have it quicker, giving specific deadlines. But it's taking that 1, 2, 3, stop moment to make that happen.
And that's good leadership training advice.
Absolutely.
Okay. Besides tapping and 1, 2, 3, stop, is there one more tip you can give?
Yes. I would suggest actually taking a day of rest. When you have a startup, you're like so focused and you want to have it happen. I don't know about other startups, but for me, I was working full-time job and doing side gigs to get my startup going. And every time you have an hour, you think, I've got to put it in the business. I've got to put it in the business. And what we need to do is stop to sharpen the saw. If you have a racehorse and you're running it all the time, pretty soon it's just going to fall over flat. We need to stop and take care of ourselves. And if that means taking a day off and doing nothing, do it without guilt, do it without shame. Just understand that it's part of the process, that you need to stop and take care of yourself before you can move on.
Excellent advice. Thank you so much, Dr. Katie Nall from the NallEdge Company. I'm Mary Scott with Business Riff. I want startups to be wildly successful. And one of the best things you can do is book a synergy call with me at businessriff.com. And join us again next time for Stuck, Time to Improv.